I'd like to demonstrate now sewing straight lines and pivoting corners. Before I do so, I'd like to make you aware of a couple of things on this particular machine. First of all, its default setting when you turn it on is the 0, 0 stitch. And your stitches are all pictured here on the front of the machine. And 0, 0 stitch shows us in this little diagram that the needle is actually left of center. When I am sewing on a sample that has a line that I'm going to follow, I want my needle in the center of the machine so that I can follow that line accurately. So I need to change my stitch to 0, 1. So the way to do that is with these buttons here. There's a button under each digit place on your readout. So I'm simply going to press the plus button underneath the right hand digit to get to 0, 1. And as I did that, hopefully you heard that and my machine moved. I'll go back to 0, 0. Listen for the change. All right, so that's 0, 0 and the needle is at the left. Now if you can watch here, as I push the button and listen, the needle moved to the center. All right, that's where we want it. Another thing on this machine is your stitch length, and it is displayed in your little window. There's some information at the right-hand side of this window, and the top right figure is your stitch length, and that indicates the actual size of your stitch, and the default setting is an average medium-sized stitch, which is 2.5 on this machine. If I want to increase that, I hit the plus button. You don't hear anything happening because it's an internal adjustment that the machine is making, and this will go all the way up to a 5.0 or all the way down to 0.2. So I'm going to go back to that 2.5 setting, which is the factory default. Now just below that, you see a little image of a zigzag line, and that is your stitch width. You cannot adjust the stitch width when you're in a straight stitch setting, which is stitch 0, 0, 0, 1, or 0, 2. So we would need to put it on 0, 3 or some other variation in order to adjust the stitch width. We'll get to that later, but that allows the needle to move back and forth during the stitching process. All right, so here we are, ready to get started with a straight stitch, and I'm going to be sewing straight lines and pivoting corners. All right. So what you want to do when you have a line to follow is line up the line with the center of your presser foot. Now if you're looking at the presser foot, there are several little marks, and there is one that's in the middle, and now my needle lines up with the one in the middle. So thankfully I can line that up. Now I like to start by doing my back stitch. So what I did was actually place my fabric under my presser foot so that my needle is going to go in the material in from my mark, so that I can go backward first and then start stitching forward. On this machine, the reverse button is here. You can see there's a little arrow, all right? So as long as I'm holding that button down, the machine will sew backward. We do this to sort of lock the stitching so it doesn't pull out. So I'm going to press my reverse button and my gas pedal and sew backward, okay? And then when I release the reverse button, the machine will stop, and now the next time I press my foot pedal, it will sew forward. All right, so I'm going to sew along here, and I'm simply, please notice that I am not tugging or pushing, I'm not holding the fabric down, I'm simply guiding it along and keeping my stitches in that line. Now, as I approach my corner, I need to slow down, and my goal is that my needle will be in the fabric right at the corner. So I'm going to take one more stitch, give it just the tiniest bit of gas. There we go. Now, with the needle in the fabric, I'm going to raise my presser foot with the lever here, and I'm going to turn my fabric pivot, we call it. All right. So then I line up my line with my center mark, and I go again. Okay. As I approach the corner, I slow down. And one more stitch. All right. I think I can go one more actually. One more stitch here. Put the needle in the fabric. Raise the presser foot. Pivot the fabric. Line it up. Lower the presser foot and stitch. Approach the corner. Ooh, I almost missed that one. One more stitch, needle in the fabric, raise the presser foot, pivot the corner. All right, so you continue to do so on around your sample as you have it drawn. Okay, that one worked out perfectly. Now when I get to the center or the end here, I will back stitch again for 3 or 4 stitches, and that will be it. Overshot that one. All right, now as I approach the end here, get to the end and backstitch. Okay. Raise your needle take-up lever to its highest position, which you turn the hand wheel towards yourself. There is a little bar on the hand wheel, and when it lines up with this seam in the machine, then your lever's in the highest position. Raise your presser foot, pull your sample off, leave some thread tails attached to the machine, and snip your threads. So there is my sample. I'll turn it over so you can maybe see the stitching. And there you go.